Hi everyone, my name is Katherine Griffiths, and today I will be presenting the psychological benefits of yoga programming in jails and prisons. Currently, with over 2 million inmates in jails and prisons across the country, the United States detains more criminal offenders than any other country in the world. More than half of all U.S. inmates exhibit symptoms of a mental health disorder, and actually experience the symptoms more frequently and more intensely than the general population. The three largest psychiatric facilities in the country are actually operated out of correctional facilities in New York, Los Angeles, and Chicago. Stanley Hall was an American psychologist who wrote about applying psychological research to prisons. He was the first president of the American Psychological Association, and in 1904 he coined the term prison psychology. By 1920, many prisons employed psychologists to evaluate, diagnose, and treat mental illness and other behavioral disorders. Today, prison psychologists may work directly with prisons to provide treatment programming, crisis management strategies, and individual or group therapy sessions. They may also offer analysis of field research and perhaps give training or educational seminars to correctional staff or policymakers. Common interventions in jails and prisons today include drug therapies and the use of psychotropic medications, as well as individual or group counseling and substance abuse treatment programs. So, why are we talking about psychological interventions in prisons? Well, research shows that inmates in jails and prisons experience heightened levels of personal distress, aggression, antisocial behavior, and substance abuse. Additionally, prison psychologists have found higher rates of homelessness, histories of physical or sexual abuse, criminal recidivism, and substance abuse in mentally ill prison inmates compared to the rest of the general prison population. In this presentation, I propose yoga programming as a cost-efficient, sustainable, feasible, and effective intervention for improving prisoners' psychological health and well-being. So what is yoga? Yoga is a mental, physical, and spiritual practice that originated more than 5,000 years ago in northern India. Most practices consist of asanas, which are physical postures that are designed to increase strength, flexibility, and balance. Other important components of a yoga practice include controlled deep breathing, meditative and mindfulness practices, and self-transformation. This can be physical or mental, as we seek to replace undesirable thoughts and behaviors with more positive ones. Given the rich history and philosophical origins of yoga, common misconceptions about the practice include that yoga is inherently religious, perhaps that it is feminine or girly, sometimes that it is easy or boring, and altogether, these misconceptions may lead people to scoff at the idea of yoga as a credible prison intervention program.
Including former gang member Darnell Washington.
When I used to see people do it, like, oh, yoga's just soft, you know. But once I got involved in it, and the position he was holding is like, now it's like, okay, this is really like hurting.
I chose to research the implications of yoga programming in correctional facilities because I personally care a lot about criminal justice reform, and I also absolutely love yoga. I actually began working at Kennesaw State University as a yoga instructor for the Department of Sports and Recreation in January of 2019, and it has been one of the most tremendous blessings of my life. I'm actually looking forward to go to Peru in June to study yoga in the Shaman Mountains for a month and to obtain my 200-hour yoga teacher training certification. So, the information that I found out from doing this research has really sparked an interest in potentially pursuing some yoga teaching in correctional facilities. So let's go ahead and dive into some of the existing research on prison yoga programs today. In 2013, researchers from the United Kingdom conducted the first empirical study of prison yoga across 7 different prisons. The participants consisted of 100 inmates that were randomly assigned to either the control group or an experimental group. The control group was instructed to continue usual social interaction and physical activity, while the experimental group attended a 2-hour yoga session once a week. Before and after the 10-week intervention period, all participants completed questionnaires measuring a variety of outcome variables. Between groups t-tests revealed that compared to the control group, participants in the yoga group experienced statistically significant improvements in mood, lower perceived stress and psychological distress, and greater cognitive behavioral functioning. A few years after the initial study by Bilderbeck and colleagues, researchers in Sweden conducted the first empirical study observing sleep disturbance among prison yoga participants. In this study, 152 inmates from 9 medium and high security Swedish prisons were randomly assigned to either the control group or experimental group. Both groups completed questionnaires measuring this time 16 variables, and after the 10-week intervention period, within groups t-tests revealed significant improvements in 13 of the 16 outcome variables in the experimental group compared to significant improvements in only 2 of the 16 variables in the controlled group. The between groups t-tests, on the other hand, revealed significant differences in 6 of the 16 variables between the 2 groups. Most notably, the experimental group revealed less antisocial behavior and greater attention and impulse control than the control group. The Prison Yoga Project is a nonprofit yoga intervention program that brings trauma-sensitive yoga classes to prisons across the United States. Trauma sensitivity is especially important for inmates who are victims of sexual violence and others who are hurt or injured.
Inhale in.
Participants in the Prison Yoga Project program have reported benefits that include increases in sleep quality, impulse control, decreases in perceived stress, as well as feelings of depression and anxiety, fewer addictive behaviors, and an overall improvement in subjective well-being. Other inmates explain how their experience in the Prison Yoga Project program has allowed them to uncover and process emotions that were previously suppressed.
It allows me to tap into my self and question, and find answers to why I responded the way I did in the past.
I grew up in a dysfunctional environment, dysfunctional childhood, so I had a lot of trauma suppressed within me. But yoga have taught me how to be aware of that trauma when it come up in triggers and whatnot, of anxiousness or anger. Yoga done taught me how to just breathe and, relax and perceive the truth of what's going on, right? Because everything we perceive is not the truth. It can just be something coming up, something that you was triggered for. So, and I know society got a lot of that. So that's how that's gonna help me when I get out.
This moment of peace helps Danny Plunkett forget his troubled past. He's 3 years into his yoga practice. He says yoga gave him a new sense of self that will help him start a better life on the outside.
Part of my parole plans are yoga. It's a vital component of my overall physical, emotional, spiritual health. I'm never going to stop doing yoga.
Thank you for watching this presentation. I hope that the inmate testimonials and the empirical evidence presented today constitute further research into and implementation of these prison yoga programs across the country. Namaste.